Hello, everyone. This is Rick, and welcome to Astral Club. This episode is going to be called Astral Life, Afterlife. We're going to discuss my experience of what happens after one leaves your physical body for the last time. What happens in the astral, and then finally, if reincarnation occurs, how that occurs, why that occurs, and we're going to be answering one of the great questions I consider of the universe, which is why reincarnation? And for instance, when you talk to people, your family and your friends, and say, hey, would you reincarnate if you have a choice? And they all give you one of two answers, no and no. So there's three reasons why reincarnation does occur, even though you can't find a lot of people right now who are interested in doing so. So stay tuned, and we're going to discuss those three reasons. These experiences are mine. They're also a result of my talking with a variety of entities over the years and asking questions about what happens and why these things happen. So the information is my own, is been given to me by other entities that I trust. Your mileage may vary. Jesus said in the Bible that in my Father's house there are many rooms. So, there could be realities out there that I have no clue about. So all I can offer here is what I've experienced and what I have been told. This is your trigger warning. If you are a traditional evangelical Christian who believes in the binary afterlife very rigidly, i.e., heaven and the hot place, this video is probably not for you. So you probably want to click this one off and go check out one of the other videos. Okay, moving on. There's been a large number of books written in the last 40 years or so discussing life after life and what happens when one passes over. There's been a lot of NDEs, near passing over experiences, which we've had an episode on this channel covering some of the things that occur during that experience. And that certainly is an initial part of this whole process. But it obviously goes a lot further along than that, because the folks who had NDEs, well, they stop pretty early in the process and come back to their present physical body. So they don't get much more than a quick intro, and then they have to return. So what I want to do here is discuss the whole process. One of the more traditional books is the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which I read when I was in college, and it's a very interesting tome, and it has its own stages and beliefs of what occurs. But once again, there's no point in me covering a book. I'm just going to talk about what I know, what I've experienced. Okay, the first part, obviously, you pass over. You leave this physical life. So what are some of the things that occur? Well, much like in the NDE episode, there'll be a transition. You'll either black out for a brief period of time and then find yourself in your astral body, or you may fly down a long, dark tunnel, which is what I used to do quite a bit when in the early days of my astral projections. I don't do that anymore. I don't know why that stopped, but it did. Now I just have a brief moment of unconsciousness. But many people do report a long, dark tunnel that they fly down. Once they get to the end of that tunnel, there's a light, and they report, and I have seen a variety of entities there that assist others with this process. Sometimes it's a religious figure, like Jesus. Obviously, Christianity is what I was raised in, so I'm the most familiar with that. But if you subscribe to other religions, I imagine then those figures would appear to you. In many cases, there are loved ones that appear to comfort the newly departed. Now, I don't know for sure whether these are the actual souls of your loved ones or whether they are guides taking on these images from the psychic impressions of your mind to help comfort you. I know for a fact that entities do take on images like that to comfort the newly departed because I have done that in the past to comfort those who have been stuck in the early stages after they've passed over. So I can't say whether they're actually loved ones or whether they're just entities or guides taking on those images. But that's what I've seen occur in the past. Once you have your homecoming, you then begin to examine your life. Now, I'm discussing what happens to an average soul that I have seen. Obviously, there are extreme examples of folks who have undergone a lot of trauma. We discussed a spirit just last week that passed, and it was very much traumatized and was stuck in the beginning areas until I was able to assist it to go on. And those things certainly do happen. Entities who pass suddenly or violently can be stuck in early stages and require help to move on. But I'm going to try to follow along in a much more average situation to benefit everyone. So you've had your homecoming, you talk with guides or relatives, and you become oriented as to what's going on now that you have indeed passed on. Now, those with religious beliefs or afterlife beliefs or have beliefs in things other than just the physical tend to have an advanced situation here because they expected an afterlife, whereas someone who's much more of a materialist did not. So it might take them a little bit longer to have their homecoming and to become truly oriented. But once they do, they review their life. And reviewing your life is much more than watching it on a little astral TV screen. What you do is you review every instant of your life, most particularly in areas where you learned a lesson or you had an effect upon others in some way, shape, or form. And you can follow along those tree branches as to how your action affected others as well as yourself. And you're not just watching it, you're actually experiencing it once again, not only as yourself, but also as those other people. You get to feel the emotions that they felt and the impacts, the true impacts on their life as if it happened to you. So it's a very, very real, very actual type process. And it does tend to put things into extremely sharp focus. Now, about this time, you're going to find yourself amongst others in some level of the astral. And in my experience, no one really appoints you. You're not assigned a level in the astral. It is just a place that you are drawn to, where you feel comfortable. And that is the level that you tend to take up your current home, your current place of occupation. And you may talk with others, and you can actually, depending on what level you're at, you can interact with other souls and other spirits who are going through similar types of situations. You also tend to find that you're part of a school. You're part of a group of souls that has been reincarnating over and over again to learn certain lessons that your school has in common. And you may also attend astral schools which some people have had memories of doing while they sleep. They wake up in the morning and they remember school. I had that experience a number of times in a dream format, and also when I woke up in the astral. And I've talked about that experience in several of my videos. So you go through this educational process as well to try to give you more advantage of the lessons that have been learned. Now, some people say, well, then why can't these schools just give you all of these lessons? Why must you reincarnate and learn them firsthand for yourself? Well, anyone who's ever learned a new skill, like driving, for instance, you can't learn to drive by sitting in the back seat and watching someone else drive. If you want to learn to be a good driver, your butt has to be in the driver's seat, holding the steering wheel, foot on the gas, going down the road. There is no shortcut. Sure, driver training schools will show you videos and all this other kind of stuff. But the bottom line is you've got to be in the seat going down the road if you want to learn to be a driver. And it's the same situation when you want to learn lessons that will have an impact upon your soul, true ones. You've got to experience them firsthand. There's just no way you can audit the experience and actually learn the lessons as well as you need to. Once you've gone through that process, then you're going to choose whether you're going to go forward or not in reincarnating. Now, this is where I want to discuss the weird situation that tends to exist. You walk around, and you should do this if you haven't done this before, and go to your friends, go to your family, and ask them, if you have a choice, and this is the perfect year to ask that question too, by the way, 2020, Annus Horribilis, horrible year. And ask them, if you have a choice, are you going to reincarnate? Are you going to come back here to Earth? And if your friends and family are anything like mine, you're going to get a resounding no. So why is the reincarnation? If this is true, who are they getting to reincarnate? Is it purely a forced process? For the most part, no, it is not. And there's 3 reasons that I have been able to learn from entities on the astral that have made sense to me. And let's see if they make sense to you. The first of the 3 is your astral body is not eternal. It does die. It does cease to exist. The astral body is a lot like the physical body in that it is made of energy and matter. Now, it's energy and matter that we here on Earth don't currently have ways to accurately detect and measure. But it is energy and matter. And as such, all energy and matter eventually will decay into another form. People who see spirits and ghosts, normally you'll find that you won't see an entity that had a lifetime much more than 200 years ago. The reason being, and even then when you see those spirits, sometimes what you'll see is actually a vacated corpse of an astral body that is in the process of decaying. There's not a lot of details to it. It's very nebulous and misty, and it tends to be going through an automated series of actions as if it's on autopilot. It's because the soul has to leave the astral body that it had. When the physical body perishes, the energy that was being fed to the astral body stops abruptly. Now, the lifespan of the astral body varies, just like our physical lifespans vary, but it is limited. The astral body is not eternal. So, a decision has to be made. And when I say decision, that's not the most accurate term, because it's something that occurs naturally. You either have to proceed to the mental plane, the next higher level, or you've got to go back to the physical. Now, there is one exception where you can continue longer in the astral, but I have promised that I won't share that because it's profoundly evil, and it's nothing that anybody should try to take advantage of. So I'm not going to talk about it. But for the most part, those are the two choices. Now, before you say, well, fine, I'm just going off to the mental, I have discussed the mental plane before. I have visited it. It certainly is interesting. But it's also a profoundly alien place. It's a place where the ego is dissolved, where it's pure thought. And all of the familiar trappings that you've seen in the physical and in the astral are gone. There's no familiar fixed points of reference. There's no faces and places and names. So if it's a place that you feel you belong, that's fine. But if it's not, and you'll know if it's not, then it's time to return to a body. Now, keep in mind that you don't necessarily have to return to a physical body here on Earth. And by the way, all my information is you come back into another human's body. I guess it's theoretically possible that you do something else on Earth, but that would be extremely rare. It's also possible, though, especially if you've been an astral projector and you have some sort of pulls or connections elsewhere in the universe, that you might reincarnate in an alien body. But once again, that is extraordinarily rare. So talking about it is very much the exception and not the rule. So you've got this basic choice, and it's something that you realize pretty early on. So you've got to make that decision to either get promoted or else go back into a physical body. The next area that tends to answer this question, where do they get people to reincarnate and how do they get them to reincarnate, is Call of Duty. If you're a video game player, you've probably played Call of Duty or one of its associated games. If you're not a video game player, then you've probably seen movies like Saving Private Ryan. Now, both of these are very combat-oriented. They're very unpleasant scenarios because war is a very unpleasant situation, yet we seem to be drawn to it. And I think the reason we are is because of the various adrenaline rushes associated with it. And when we're watching a video game or we're watching a movie, we know that we're inherently safe. We can't be harmed. So we can experience this awful physical experience, but knowing that we're actually safe. When you're choosing to reincarnate, you are now in a position, in a situation where you realize that the physical is an illusion. You realize that you really can't be harmed. You've seen through that illusion now. It's very clear to you. So going back into the body isn't as repellent as it seems to be right now as we're sitting in our physical bodies in the year 2020. It becomes much more like, hey, you want to play Call of Duty? Yeah, sure, why not? Or, hey, you want to watch Saving Private Ryan? Yeah, okay, sure. That's the type of scenario that your soul starts to take on, starts to appreciate and believe in. The third, which is something that affected my choice this time around, was helping others. There's a very strong pull from those souls that you have loved, that you have a connection to, and also in some cases to mankind in general, that you don't come back for selfish reasons. You come back because others are asking for your assistance and you just can't say no. It's something that you feel you have to do. So In my case, there were members of my family that asked for my help, and in a very small way, this channel is assisting others to learn to astral project and to expand themselves. So, in some very, very minuscule way, I'm assisting a lot of other folks. So that's another reason why to go through this lifetime. So these are the three basic reasons that I have learned why people reincarnate. And so I hope that helps to explain that basic question, which many people who consider reincarnation seem to run up against. So, if you have decided to go to the mental plane, that's something that I can't discuss. I told you that in my experiences in the mental plane, to really give you the true information, I would need to convey that to you in a mental way using telepathy, because physical languages are woefully inadequate. But if you choose the other way, going back to life here on Earth, now you have to choose your life lesson and choose a body. I shared with you my 4 pre-life memories in a previous video. These are 4 memories that I have where I was in that state of choosing my family and how I was going to reincarnate. And real briefly, I met my father when he was a soldier American soldier in Germany in the late 50s. And I liked his spirit, I liked his gentleness and his intelligence. So I followed him home. At a high school dance, I directed him subtly towards a attractive brunette, and who would become my mother. Then, when my mother was pregnant with me, I went to her while she was at work, and I checked out her workplace. And even though she quit before I was born, I was able to describe where she worked and what the interior of the place looked like because of that memory. And then finally, my last memory was rushing to the hospital because I was getting born, and it was time for me to, once and for all bond with that particular physical body. So that, in a very brief nutshell, is the basic process that a soul goes through, the average one. And this is information based on what I have received. As I've said, you might have a different experience, but this is the experiences that I've had personally on the astral, and that I recall, and that I have also learned from other entities that I trust. I hope it was interesting, and if it is something that you enjoyed, please hit the like button. I have playlists. One of them contains all of the videos in order. The other one has just the question and answers. So if you're into listening to multiple videos, if you want to torture yourself listening to me over and over again, you can always do that. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hit that bell so you get notified whenever I post a new video. And share it with others who are of like mind. So finally, I am Rick, and I will see you on the astral plane.